All right. Good morning, everyone. I see you all are joining in. I'll give it about 2 minutes before we get started. Good morning. Good morning. All right. You all are joining pretty quickly. Good morning, everyone. All right. Again, good morning for those of you who just joined us. And so just a few housekeeping things. I see people are still coming in, so welcome. On behalf of CACRAO, thank you for joining us today, this afternoon for this session. You're in for a treat. We have some great presenters today, so I hope that you all are ready and welcome to receive some very good information. Of course, this is our virtual college exploration for all South and North Carolina students. So just a few housekeeping items. When you're ready to ask questions, you are going to use the Q&A portion. You should see that at the bottom of your screen. You're going to ask your questions there. All the panelists can see all of the questions, and they will either chat you back an answer if it's a private question, or they will ask the question aloud and answer aloud for you. Okay. Also, be sure to sign up for more sessions. We have sessions going on for the next few weeks, so I definitely encourage you, if you have not already done so, please sign up for additional sessions. All of the colleges and universities and community colleges that are presenting great information for you all, especially navigating this virtual world. So please visit the CACRAO website to sign up for some additional sessions. Also, your camera and your microphone can be off. The panelists cannot see or hear you, okay? You can see and hear us, but they cannot hear or see you. And lastly, this recording will be available on the CACRAO website. So I'm sure they're going to tell you some very important information, but you will be able to go back and access it. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and let them take over.
All right, well, thank you very much, Sydney, and thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. I'm Christopher Briggs, he, him, his, with Duke University, and I'm joined by 3 of my colleagues from 3 other Duke Endowment Schools, so universities in North and South Carolina that have a particular interest in serving North and South Carolina as well. So we're very excited to have this opportunity to talk with students and families, counselors at this CACRAO program. If my colleagues would like to go ahead and introduce themselves just really quick. Meredith, would you like to start?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Meredith High. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission at Davidson College and really excited to talk with you today.
Allison?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allison Brown, Associate Dean of Admissions for Diversity and Inclusion at Furman University, and also excited to share some information with you all today.
Thank you. And Brittany?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Paramore. I'm an admissions counselor at Jcsu Smith University, and I am very excited to be with you all today.
Thank you all. So as I mentioned before, the Duke Endowment is a set of 4 universities and colleges in North and South Carolina. The representatives here from our admissions offices are going to talk a little bit with you today. Our presentation will talk about the application process, the diversity of campus experiences, and we'll share some other information about our institutions. We decided to do this today because this program aligns with the Duke Endowment mission to strengthen communities in North and South Carolina by nurturing children, promoting health, and educating its residents in enriching experiences or spirits. Since 1924, the Duke Endowment has worked to help people and strengthen communities in North and South Carolina, and we're excited to continue along with that mission. So we have a few questions that we're going to talk about as a panel, but then we'll go ahead and also take questions from the audience as well. So if you enter those into the Q&A chat, we'll save a few of those for the end of the presentation. Now, if you have school-specific presentations, we'll type those answers into the Q&A chat. But hopefully, most of the questions that we're answering are ones that could be answered by any of the presenters here that you're talking with today. So kind of to get stuff kicked off, maybe we can all start with a little bit about a way that your institution supports North and South Carolina students. Meredith, would you like to start again?
Sure. You're the beginning of the alphabet. So, I just want to start off by saying the Duke Endowment Partnership is incredibly powerful. And I'm so glad we're here today because we really get to highlight, the value and the importance of partnerships like the one from the Duke Endowment that allow, institutions and the students that they serve to kind of conceive of what's possible really differently. So, one thing that comes to mind when I think of a way that Davidson supports North and South Carolina students, one large example, one smaller. One is that we take part in College Application Week every fall. And so we are one of the colleges who waives the application fee for all North Carolina students in October. So we'll be doing that again this year, and we're excited about that. But on a larger scale, Davidson has thought about how can we make ourselves an accessible place. And so the example I want to share is our need-based financial aid program, which is called the Davidson Trust. So this program allows us to meet full financial need for all of our admitted students, and we do that without using loans. So that makes Davidson a place that is accessible. It allows us to compete with some of the really amazing in-state public options that North and South Carolina students have. And that's something that illustrates the commitment to the students right here in our backyard, and it allows us to compete for some of the best and brightest students in this region. As sort of a afterthought with that, we're seeing really high stay rates among North and South Carolina students, right, like in the region. And so it's sort of this idea of keeping students in the state to pursue their education, even if it's not a public option, and then leveraging connections to places like Charlotte to keep them involved in the economy afterwards.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that introduction about Davidson. Allison, would you like to talk a little bit about Furman?
Yeah, sure. So Furman University, being the South Carolina school within this 4-school Duke Endowment Partnership, is a bit of an outlier, but definitely committed to serving the Carolinas. We are very much, leading our state in just higher education in terms of the national rankings and state rankings. And so ways in which we look to support students from the Carolinas, in addition to all of our students that we work with, will really leverage our South Carolina state scholarships in terms of being competitive for admission. So definitely being present in as many ways as possible to our South Carolina students. Furman also participates in the college application days for our state. We are looking at newer and more innovative ways of further supporting students from the Carolinas by way of waiving application fees and such, which I think we may circle back around to here in a little bit. But overall, the Furman Advantage is really how we're supporting our students from across the board, with a special interest in our primary market of students, which are students from the Carolinas. So just kind of a short overview of how Furman might fit into that commitment across both states.
Thank you for that information. Brittany, how about you tell us a little bit about Johnson C. Smith University?
Johnson C. Smith University is unique in a lot of ways. One, we are the only HBCU represented on this panel. With that being said, we are not Black-only universities. I don't want people to be like, oh, it's an HBCU, so I can't come unless I'm an African-American student. That is not the truth. Johnson C. Smith University, we welcome all students. We were the first HBCU to actually accept undocumented students on our university, and we still do to this day. Also, we do participate in College Week, as well as we have a foster care initiative for students who may be homeless and or in the foster care system. Students who qualify for that program, Ms. Patton Wool is over that program, and she's able to walk with students from the time that they apply all the way to the first day of class. First-time students also receive a free passport as well as a free iPad, because we do encourage students to study abroad. Johnson C. Smith does, well, pre-COVID, we did have students go abroad every semester, and that program is completely free to students. They only have to make sure that they are in academic standing and financial standing in order to attend those study abroad trips. So for North Carolina and South Carolina students, we do try to make sure that we make them competitive to the other peers in their field. We understand that we are a smaller institution. We only have about 1,500 students on campus, but we try to maximize that time that we have with students and really make sure that we give them all the tools that they need to be able to step forth into the world that we live in. So yeah, that's our stuff for North Carolina and South Carolina students. We also do not have in-state or out-of-state tuition for those South Carolina students.
Thank you very much, everyone, for that information. And I'll add a little bit about Duke's commitment to North and South Carolina. I want to describe that in two ways, both regards to financial aid and making the university affordable for students. The first is that all of our students are eligible for a financial aid package that meets 100% of your family's demonstrated need. So we want students to be able to find the university to be affordable, regardless of how much their family can contribute. So for instance, this past year, the average financial aid package that our students received was about $51,000. That really goes a long way to helping make sure that students can find the university to be affordable. They don't have to feel like they're saddled with a ton of loan debt. In fact, we cap the amount of loans that students might receive in their financial aid award letter at no more than $5,000 each year. So when students leave Duke, they on average don't have more than $18,000 in debt if they have any loan debt at all. The other thing I'd want to say, and this is especially unique to North and South Carolina residents, is that we have a merit scholarship program specific for our commitment to North and South Carolina. That's the BN Duke Scholarship Program. For all of our merit scholarships, there's no application for them. So when students apply, they're automatically considered for the full breadth and width of scholarships that we have available. North and South Carolina students are only considered for the BN scholarship. And there are usually around 5 to 7 students who are selected for that scholarship program each year. There's a full cost of attendance scholarship. So students who are selected for that program, we cover the cost of their tuition, room, board, other enrichment opportunities, experiences where they travel and do research. So we want to make sure that those students are, the top students in North and South Carolina that we can identify, but they also have an interest in giving back to their communities, finding ways to take the resources that Duke provides them to either add to their hometown or add to the Carolinas in general. So talking a little bit more generally about ways that your schools serve students, let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. So it doesn't have to necessarily be North and South Carolina students, but can you say a little bit more about ways that your school is supporting students? Brittany, would you like to start this time?
Sure. At Jcsu Connect, I did talk briefly about our foster care initiative. Another program that we have on campus is our Smith Closet. And our Smith Closet students have the opportunity to be able to go completely free and get clothes for interviews and things of that nature for things in the area and in the community. We also have a partnership with Belk, so it's not like I don't want people to be like, oh, they're going to give me hand-me-downs and things like that. Some things are gently used, but there are a number of things in the closet that is completely brand new. That is a donation from Belk. With our students in the university, through our McNair Scholars Program, they also have opportunities to be able, for first-year students, to be able to get unique programming, to be able to help them understand what college is. It can be it's a hard adjustment sometimes coming from high school into a 4-year program. So through that McNair Scholars Program, they're able to really develop a strong sense of scholarship and really community. We also have a BIDL and a SITLEX program. Those BIDL and SITLEX programs are for students who do not meet our minimum requirements. Instead of denying those students, we give them an opportunity to come in through those programs. If a student is admitted through the BIDL program, it is for a semester. And the SITLEX program is for a year. Those students get an advisor as well as peer mentors that they will have to weekly check in to ensure that they are upholding the requirements for the university standard. So we try to meet all our students where they are. Even if we have some parents there, we have an adult degree program as well. That's for our evening and online students, as well as an MSW program. So you can go all the way through and get your MSW, your BSW and your MSW in 5 years, because we really want to try to work with students and meet them where they are.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Allison, can you tell us a little bit more about what it looks like at Furman to support students?
Yes, so I mentioned the Furman Advantage earlier in just my brief overview, and the Furman Advantage really is the cornerstone of the academic experience At Furman, essentially, it's an opportunity for our students to create their own college experience by utilizing the high impact practices in which can take on a variety of different ways, whether it's conducting research, participating in an internship, and or study away. There's not a limit or a prescribed channel in which students can explore any of those options. So again, the opportunity to create and shape that experience over the course of 4 years. Furman's goal within the next academic year, so one additional year from now, is to have a 100% participation rate for students engaging in any of those 3 particular areas. So there's definitely a commitment to serve our students in that capacity. The support measures, the support mechanisms come by way of advising and mentoring and just overall coaching. A college student, whether it's you're a first generation college student or you have family members who have come before you, it will still be your first initial experience, and it will be an opportunity for you to make it what you need it to be. So really that is a very strong attractor for students who are looking for the strong academics in a smaller liberal arts environment. Furman is a private institution, and the way that we're able to roll out the Furman Advantage to support all of our students is directly connected to the Duke Endowment. So we received a very, very nice gift of millions of dollars to financially support our students so that we are breaking down any of those challenges and or barriers as students are looking to maybe take that first study away trip for the first time, and kind of, help them be supported and feel supported by sending them on that opportunity with their peers as well as Furman faculty while they're earning Furman credits. So that's just one testament as to how we are able to utilize our Duke Endowment partnership in order to offer the Furman Advantage to all of our students. So that is one thing that you will definitely consider to hear. You will continue to hear more about as you learn more about Furman. So that is what I'd like to offer in terms of how Furman is supporting all of our students from start when they enroll all the way to graduation.
Thank you very much. Meredith, will you tell us a little bit more about what Davidson does?
Be glad to. So, one thing that I think is at the root of the ways that Davidson supports its students is the fact that it's an undergraduate only institution. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind in terms of where our resources are allocated, right? So Davidson is in a position where we bring in a student body of about 2,000 undergraduate students, and every single resource that we have, including time and energy of faculty as well as financial resources, goes towards support of undergraduate students who are at a point where they are figuring out what they want to do, right? They are discovering who they are, who they want to be, what questions they want to ask about the world, where they want to dig in. And so, I think there's sort of the non-material element of support in terms of focus. And then, one example I would look to in terms of more material forms of support are just the range of grants that are available for students on campus. I've been at Davidson since 2015. I feel like I learn about new grant opportunities every single day, whether those are coming through, the Center for Career Development for no pay or low pay internships, whether those are coming through the chaplain's office for kind of independent exploration related to faith or spirituality or, connection to communities, or whether it's an opportunity for research. So Davidson funds a program called the Davidson Research Initiative that allows undergraduate students to have funding from the college to carry out their own original research. That serves students really well as they are looking to be published, present at conferences, and then pursue graduate school after Davidson. And as a side note, and back to, Allison did a really great job mentioning where the Duke Endowment comes into play. Similarly at Davidson, the Duke Endowment was a major funder of our E. Craig Wall Junior Academic Center, which is our brand new science facility. It's state of the art, but it's actually built to be really interdisciplinary. So we actually have 16 different disciplines that have homes and teach in that, as well as over 50 labs. So lots of opportunities for students to pursue kind of original work.
Thank you. And I'll jump in and talk a little bit about what support looks like at Duke. And the first thing is that all of our students have a really robust advising network that includes their academic dean before they declare their major. So once they've arrived on campus, someone who's helping them map out what they want to accomplish during their 4 years. Once they declare their major, they receive their academic advisor. All of our first year students also have a peer mentor. When you are expressing interest in research or study abroad or an internship, there are also advisors for those programs. In total, students can have 6 different advisors helping to guide them through their time at Duke. That really does help them, hone in on exactly what it is they'd like to accomplish over the course of 4 years and really get to know all the resources that are available to support them. So many of our students are finding that they are able to study abroad, participate in undergraduate research, have an internship, prepare for graduate school, all those types of experiences in 4 years because of the robust support that they receive from advising, but also the financial support that I touched on earlier. We want students to make sure that they can afford to participate in many of those opportunities. And so some of them, students find that the university will cover them and pay for their expenses. So for instance, the Duke Engage program, kind of the crown jewel of service and engagement at the university. And there's a fully funded 8 to 10 week summer program that our students participate in to go and be a part of service efforts all over the world. So a great way for them to learn about how people and communities, organizations, and other places are solving problems differently than we might do at Duke or Durham or the United States. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the Duke Life program. So it's the low income first generation engagement office. And this is support that we have for those students who need additional financial aid or they're the first in their family to go to college. We want to make sure that those students are able to make a smooth transition to Duke, that they are able to be a part of our community and take advantage of all the resources and experiences that we know are so valuable for Duke students. This also includes the David Rubenstein Scholars Program, which is a scholarship program specifically for first generation low income students. Again, no application process for that, but it does include a full cost of attendance scholarship, a fully loaded laptop when those students arrive on campus, and additional advising and support for other opportunities. We're doing this presentation today in this format because of the ongoing pandemic. Maybe if everyone would talk a little bit about how your school has been supporting students this fall during the continuation of the pandemic. Allison, will you start us off?
Absolutely. So this is probably the hottest topic of conversation, regardless if it's in the workplace or at home or in school. So I definitely appreciate that we are getting ahead of this and actually talking about it up front. We know that this is very much a point of concern for you all as you are having to navigate your college application experience virtually with many limitations to getting to college campuses. So a quick overview of how Furman is managing our current state of the global pandemic. Of course, safety for our students is the first priority. So we have the Paladin Promise, which was rolled out towards the end of the summer, where all returning and incoming students had to agree to not only take care of themselves, but take care of each other. There are processes in place now that will support students who recognize that their peers are not adhering to the safety guidelines that have been put in place by the university. Clearly, our students, have the freedom to go and come as they please on and off campus. The majority of our students did choose to return to campus for in-person instruction. So very similar to most of you all, how you were given the option to return to your high school experience. The same has happened at Furman. So the majority of our students have chosen to return to move back on campus. We implemented a phased-in approach. We are about 2,800 students strong already to begin with. So we brought back half of those students at once in mid-August around our traditional move-in time with a freshman and senior class move-in structure. We just welcomed back our sophomore and junior students this past weekend so that we could be mindful of campus density and ensure that all the mechanisms in place are working, and they are working. So there's a dashboard and a website for Furman and most likely all of our institutions that will continue to provide updates as to the current testing on campus, the structure and components in place. We are not currently open for on-campus visits, so we do have a slate of virtual options in which, we hope that you will continue to further explore Furman's campus to the best of your ability and ours as we can present that to you, but safety is number one and key. I also wanted to mention the academic component of navigating your academic experience. With COVID kind of being present all around us, we saw that this past summer in which all of our students were virtual in their internship experiences, but we saw more students participating in their internship summer experiences than ever before. So Furman had to pivot pretty quickly and pivoted quite successfully to still continue to provide those Furman Advantage elements that we've already kind of heard a little bit about. In the classroom, we have a Furman Flex format so that students who may suddenly become ill and are not able to physically come to class, Zoom classroom capabilities have been set up so that it looks somewhat like a hybrid. You might have 2 or 3 of your peers tuning in virtually and the remaining 8 or 9 of you are physically in person. So our faculty and staff have been prepared and trained as to how to still conduct and lead their classroom experience so that they can still deliver a high caliber and high quality academic experience.
Thank you. Meredith, will you tell us a little bit more about what it looks like at Davidson right now?
Sure. So I think, everyone knew we were going to have to go into this semester with an extension of grace, right? And knowing that things were going to just look a lot different and none of us were going to have the semester that we maybe envisioned. So Davidson is for the most part back on campus. We have about 1,900 students either on campus or in town. Classes are a mix of hybrid or remote. One thing that's been kind of cool to see is that even students who have opted to stay home for the semester are able to enroll in those hybrid classes because, of course, we have the technology to include them. 2 things I want to highlight. One, the college is committed to testing every single student who is in town or on campus weekly. This is an expensive undertaking. It's something the college is committed to because it's allowing us to have higher levels of confidence in the ways that we're proceeding. And that's really important. I'm also seeing a real commitment to transparency and communication with the community. There's a lot of ongoing communication, answering of students' questions. The other thing I see, and I think this is an impact of kind of existing culture at Davidson, but there is this kind of ongoing commitment to just like shared responsibility to one another. So I would say the administration is doing a great job of just, reminding students of that and thanking them for their participation. But we also see a lot of students recognizing the importance of, wearing masks and distancing, because for some students who are members of our community, campus is the safest place they have to be, right? It is the place where they have reliable housing. It is the place where they have consistent access to the internet, consistent access to food. So it is really important that we all do our part to uphold this place for the most vulnerable members of our community. So I'm seeing, increased flexibility in terms of faculty and how they're delivering their teaching. I'm seeing, commitment from the college in terms of testing and communication. And I'm seeing commitment from the student body, faculty, and staff in terms of upholding what we've agreed to do.
Thank you. Brittany, how about you tell us a little bit more about what's happening at Johnson C. Smith?
I think we are the only one on the panel that opted to do remote for fall 2020. So all of our students are in their respectable hometowns for classes for fall 2020. However, all first-time students did receive an extra $2,000 grant for fall 2020, and all returning students, they received a little bit more. I'm not quite sure how much they received because my focus was on my new students that was coming in. Our students also for fall 2020 for the freshman class, we did, I won't say that we waived test scores, but we do work with students who weren't able to take tests due to COVID-19. So students who were affected and were not able to take those tests, they were able to get those test scores waived. However, if they did have test scores, we did still require those test scores. You talked a little bit earlier, Chris, about your merit-based scholarships, and we also have merit-based scholarships at JCSU, and whether or not you applied with your test scores or not, that did affect whether or not your scholarship, your merit-based scholarship amount. So I do let people know that in advance. So if you do have them and you just want to keep them to yourself, you might want to turn them in just because you don't know what it might end to. So that was some things that we did try to set in place. I mentioned earlier that all students receive a free iPad. Those iPads still went out to students to help aid in the remote learning for students. So we are hoping for spring 21 on campus, but at this time the university has not made any decisions as to what we will be doing for spring 21.
Thank you, everyone. I'll add that at Duke in the spring, we had 3 different support funds available. So there are about $5 million set aside for students, and then another $5 million in total set aside for Durham community businesses, organizations that needed support, and then also people at the hospital, so patients at the hospital, to make sure that anyone whose life had been affected by the outbreak of the pandemic was able to be supported. This fall, we have our first years and second year students on campus. All of our upper class students are learning remotely. Some of those students have come to Durham and they're living off campus, but many of those students have also opted to stay at home. So we do have some options for on-campus, in-person classes, but the vast majority of our courses are being offered remotely right now. Even if students are on campus, they might be taking a remote class. The university has been doing a wonderful testing program. So all of our students are being tested weekly. And we have been extremely fortunate. Students are taking all the precautions that are necessary, all the guidance that the university has given seriously so that they can be on campus. But it's also fair to say that college is very different this year. There's not as much gathering together. There's not as much of the same ways that people are learning together that we've experienced in the past. So it is a bit of a disruption, and that's a disruption that everywhere is dealing with right now. And so our hope is that as students continue to take our guidance seriously, that all of our students will be able to return to campus in the spring. That's to be determined, but we want to make sure that we can continue to support our students and have a safe education for them. We're starting to get some questions in the Q&A, and I want to talk a little bit really quickly before we turn it over to questions from that chat box of our admissions process for this year. So if we can all just talk a little bit about what is different, maybe what's the same, what's important for students to know as they're going through the application process this year. Meredith, will you start us off?
Yeah, I'm glad to. I think all of us are going to go into this reading cycle knowing that, engagement activities, they're not going to look like they have in normal years, right? I mean, we're certainly not expecting you to have been part of the spring musical when there was no spring musical. The biggest shift to our process has been that we've moved to a test optional pilot program for at least the next 3 years. So we'll be test optional. And again, as we look to read your applications, we're going to approach getting to know you in a way that addresses the reality of how you have been able to spend your time, how you've been able to stay engaged, how you've stayed connected to peers. And we know that that's going to look different than leading student government or your athletic teams or whatever it is. So I would just say generally greater context, understanding, flexibility in terms of what we're expecting to see, as well as an awareness that some of you might be at schools that have moved to pass-fail grades, and that's okay. That's not going to work against you. I would say the bottom line is we're not going to let the circumstances and the realities that were well beyond your control negatively impact you in this process.
Thank you for that. Brittany, how about what's going on at Johnson C. Smith that's different?
I think I already touched on it a little bit. I didn't do my whole spiel about scholarships when I do group tours and presentations. I always like to remind students that the root word of scholarship is scholar, so that you may not also qualify for a merit-based scholarship if you have not been a scholar in high school, because it goes hand in hand. So for merit-based scholarships, you do have to have at least a 2.8 cumulative GPA, 19 on the ACT, and a 900 on the SAT. It starts about $22,000 and it goes all the way up into $72,000 in merit-based scholarships. Those do not have to be applied to. We automatically award them at the time of the application as long as you have your test scores and your transcript. As mentioned, students who do not have test scores due to COVID-19, you're still eligible for scholarship money. You just may not be eligible for the amount that you had if a student had turned in their test scores. Everything else is pretty much standard. Yeah, so.
Thank you. Allison, how about at Furman?
Yeah, so Furman, just go ahead and address the test scores and test optional. Furman is test optional, and we've been test optional for, I believe, like 8 or 9 years now. So we're very comfortable making admission decisions without that piece of information. So this particular current cycle, while students can indicate if they would like to be test optional, just signaling to us that they want us to focus on other parts of their application. Without a test score, that's perfectly fine. About 20% of our applicant pool will usually apply test optional. That 20% will likely go up this year, which is perfectly fine also. But then we are also offering a more flexible way for students to provide a test score. So typically receiving an official score report through College Board is how we would count a test score. This year, we are allowing students to self-report their test score so that we can learn that information sooner if they would like to include that in the application. Also with this year, making it a little bit easier just to get started with us, we are waiving the application fee for any and all applicants. In addition to our essay is now becoming an optional piece. So we want to really get at the heart of learning about our students, who you are, and not having to really extend out our current circumstances, which, as Meredith mentioned, a lot of is beyond all of our means right now. So we want to just really focus on who you are as a young person and a potential candidate for our institutions by offering some of those flexible ways in which to get started and put your best foot forward through the application process.
Thank you, everyone. I'll add that at Duke, there are 2 major changes for our application process this year. The first is that our early decision deadline in the past has been November 1st. This year, we pushed it back to November 16th. This way, students have enough time at the start of an unusual school year to get all the information that they need in order to prepare and submit their applications and to have that to us on time. Early decision is still a binding agreement. So if you're applying to Duke for early decision, you're telling us this is your top choice, you'd be thrilled and excited if we offer you admission. Our regular decision deadline is still going to be January 2nd in January of the new year. The other change for our application process is this year Duke is test optional. It's right now only for the graduating class of 2021. And that does mean that if you have had the opportunity to take tests and don't want us to consider your scores, we will accept and consider your application complete without those test scores. We also understand, though, that many students have not had the opportunity to test at all. And so we won't be holding that against your application. For whatever reason you don't include test scores, then we will review it and it'll be complete. But we also know that if you want us to consider your scores, you're still welcome to send them to us. But you just will not be penalized if you do not send us scores to complete your application. So we have gotten a few questions here from the audience I think it'd be useful for us to dive into. And the first of them I think is a really good one. And it's about visits and opportunities that students might have to come and visit campus. Can we talk a little bit about what visit programs look like? And I see we have a few answers that have been typed in by the panelists, but maybe let's talk a little bit about what opportunities have replaced the on-campus visit for students to learn a bit more about your university. Allison, how about you start us off?
Sure. So we have a complete slate of ways in which you can virtually engage with us. Again, having to pivot very quickly and figure out how to even do that was quite the task over the summer. So as where we are not conducting on-campus visits, currently we still provide a 30-minute information session virtually, which is led by an admission counselor, also paired with a virtual campus tour, which is led by a student, which is the basic components of what you would experience if you were physically on campus anyway. So we were able to move those 2 pieces to a virtual format. They're being offered on Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons at 3:30. Wednesday, we have a student panel specific exclusive panel. So there is not a counselor on that particular setting. So for a lot of these questions that you're asking in the chat are wonderful. And at some point you're going to want to connect with a student. So we have a student driven panel discussion that's offered on Wednesdays. Furman, along with my colleagues, are participating in virtual college fairs. We have regional high school visits. We're conducting individual high school visits. So If you are not used to checking your email, please check your email because that's the way in which we can get in front of you all and continue to engage with you all. And of course, we're always available to have one-on-one Zoom calls or phone calls as needed throughout the year, kind of based on student request. So we're available at your fingertips, at your disposal in a lot of different ways. We have our admission events, our fall events have also moved to a virtual format. Some of these are designed around diversity interest, academic panels, connecting with alumni, connecting with our faculty. So there are several different ways in which you can receive general information about Furman specifically, and then dive a little bit deeper into some more of the special interest topics that many of you might have.
Thank you. Brittany, how can students learn a bit more about Johnson C. Smith without being able to be on campus?
Like as mentioned, we are doing remote learning for the fall, so campus is still closed, so they can participate in a virtual tour anytime on our campus website, or at 10 and 2, it's changing to 3 o'clock, I believe next week, we will be doing Jcsu Connect. Jcsu Connect is a time where you are able to join us on Zoom and be able to connect with various we have 4 on staff, the 4 different counselors. Every day is one of us. I'm on Mondays if you want to see me again. And every first Friday, so every Monday and first Friday, I host the Jcsu Connect on Zoom. And it's just a time for students to be able to see if they have any missing documents, ask questions. I did have somebody ask me if I can give them a tour, but I was home that day, so unfortunately I was not able to give them a tour of the campus. But we are trying to work with students. On October 24th, we are having our virtual open house. So if you follow us on our Instagram page, which we do host a lot of different events on Instagram at JCSU Admissions, you'll get more information about that as well.
Thank you. Meredith, what's going on at Davidson? And I see that you also want to talk about demonstrated interest. Do you want to combine those?
I can, although I'm sure everyone might like to jump in. So I might save that for a little bit down the road. But so Davidson is continuing to offer all kinds of options, virtual information sessions, virtual live guided tours, and what we call Ask a Wildcat, which are student-to-student sessions. The information sessions are live. They are hosted by an admission officer and a current student. We think our students are a lot more interesting than we are, so we like to put them in front of you. So you'll get a chance to hear from them. The live guided tours are run by our student tour guides. You'll get to hear their stories, their perspectives, and again, they are live. Same with Ask a Wildcat. It's student to student, so no admission officers, parents, families, mentors are not invited to those sessions. It's just student to student. As Allison mentioned, we're also, traveling virtual high schools, college fairs, all that kind of thing. But we're also offering through the fall 2 opportunities that look a little bit different. One, which is called Discover Davidson. So a series of sessions throughout September and October. You'll be able to hear from faculty in different departments, from student support staff. So if you want to learn about civic engagement, if you want to learn about diversity and inclusion, if you want to learn about all kinds of parts of campus life, you can attend a Discover Davidson session. And then we're also offering a series of workshops called admission intensives. So these are totally free admission workshops. They touch on things like college essay writing, they touch on virtual engagement, they touch on demonstrated interest, they touch on interviews, all kinds of things like that. So take a look at our website at the admission intensives. Again, they're totally free, and you can sign up to attend a session that is of interest to you. So we'll hope to see you.
Thank you. And then I'll add that Duke's campus, we know that we won't be hosting any information sessions or tours on campus until the new year at the earliest. We've replaced those, like everyone else here on the panel, with a bevy of other opportunities for you to engage with us online. Our daily information sessions. This week we have launched an application information session. So if you've attended a session, if you know a bit about Duke already and just want to hear us talk about the application process for 45 minutes, then we'll do that for you too. So it's much more of a deep dive. We're hosting a number of other evening events, high school visits. Of course, you're always welcome to call and email us if you have questions. And then we are also doing a great job to help promote our students and the experiences that they're having, whether it's on campus or whether they're remote learners right now. The @DiscoverDuke handle for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is the best way to hear directly from our current students about the experiences that they're having. We are closing in on just about the end of our session time here. So I want to make sure that if you have questions and want to follow up with the representative here today, our contact information is on the screen. I think we have time for one last question, so maybe if we can all quickly go around and talk about demonstrated interest and how that plays a role. You want to start, Meredith?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say at Davidson is something that's considered. It does not drive our decision making, but know that you're still having meaningful opportunities to engage and to get a sense of the college virtually. So pay attention to those interactions with people, right? Because even though you can't physically be on campus, you want to get a sense of community that way.
Thank you. Brittany?
Yes, as mentioned, we are the only HBCU that is represented on this panel. I saw a couple of questions about race and all of that, and not saying that my institution is the only one you're going to feel safe and comfortable at. But if you are looking for an experience that is a little bit more unique than what you may have experienced during your high school experience, I would definitely urge you to consider Johnson C. Smith University. I'm not just an admissions counselor, I'm also an alumni. So I did drink the Kool-Aid and I feel hard for JCSU. It's an amazing opportunity and it's an amazing school. And I would love to get to talk to y'all some more to get to know y'all. So that's my contact information. Again, you can follow us on Instagram for more information as well.
Thank you. Allison?
Yes, so as I type the last response to that question, demonstrated interest, of course, this helps us get to know you better and further advocate for you as we're going through the selection process. So, with genuine interest, continue to do what you're doing now. Ask those questions, follow up with us so that you can best understand what we're looking for, what you're looking for, so that it can be a good fit for all of us.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. Sorry, Christopher. Thank you all so much for joining us for this session today. Again, great job to our panelists. They did include their contact information on the last slide, so I hope that you were able to get that information. I know we didn't get to all of our questions today. However, they will receive a transcript of all the questions that were asked and they can follow up with you individually at a later date. So understand that your questions will be answered. They just may reach out to you directly. So just right before we end the session, a quick survey will be sent to you after you close this window. So please take the time to fill it out. Let us know how we did. If there's anything that we can improve on, please let us know. Also, be sure to sign up for additional sessions. We have sessions going on all week, all day, even the evening. So please, please, please make sure you sign up for additional sessions. And lastly, again, this recording will be available on the CACRAO website. So I want to say it takes about a day for them to upload it. So tomorrow, if you wanted to jump back in and see what else Christopher said or any of our panelists, Allison, please be sure to visit. And I thank you again, and you all have a great rest of your day.